I like going back and playing older Battlefield games. Sometimes I just open up my Origin account and I look at my options for Battlefield. But on this occasion, I looked and couldn't really decide what I wanted to play. The new update for 2042 has dropped, but I didn't really feel like hopping in there. We've been playing a lot of Hardline recently too, so that wasn't jumping out at me like it normally would. And the other choices I didn't even want to consider. Not because they're bad games by any stretch, I just wasn't feeling them. Until my eyes locked on the one true Battlefield. Battlefield 3. Other Battlefields are available. I booted the game up, dropping into the familiar site of Battlelog, RIP and sorely missed. And from there, took a look at the server browser. Cough! Legacy feature. Cough! Immediately, I was greeted by the sound of... and I felt the immediate dopamine hit and nostalgia come rushing back to me. Has Battlefield ever made me feel this way? At least to the same extent as Battlefield 3 did and still does to this day? Honestly, I'm not sure. So this video is about me contextualizing why Battlefield 3 to me, and many other Battlefield fans, was perhaps the pinnacle of the franchise to date. First off, BF3's whole map selection feels like they were handcrafted by the devs to create unique experiences, no matter the setting. From running around the docklands of Karg Island to the iconic Damavan Peak base jump, you always felt that each round was fresh and exciting. As more DLC maps were added, we were also treated to some Battlefield firsts, with the likes of Zebra Tower becoming fan favourites in terms of its aesthetics and also by giving us something new in the infantry-only style with micro-destruction, before slapping us in the face with the Aftermath DLC and making destroyed buildings fun to play in, even without us destroying them in the first place. To me, when looking at all of Battlefield 3's maps as a collection, it resembles the most diverse selection of map designs, and by the end of its official life cycle, truly had something for everyone. And let's not begin to mention Nashar Canal's TDM and how many arguments were settled in those shipping containers. I think the main reason I fell in love with the BF3 maps though, was just because of the way they truly evolved as the round played out around you. No mode showcased this better than, in my opinion, the greatest imagining of the rush game mode in the Battlefield franchise. As you attacked objectives or defended field lives, the maps would evolve and showcase a constant progression of development and unique areas to fight across every single map. It never really felt like there were cut and paste elements, and each location felt unique, even within each map itself. It was difficult for me to initially start thinking about the weapons in Battlefield 3 as well, because you only have to look at Battlefield 4 to see an even more comprehensive list of modern day weapons and attachments for every weapon, building on the Battlefield 3 blueprint in virtually every single way. But I think the ease of building up your arsenal in Battlefield 3, along with the clear instruction as to how you had to go about unlocking each weapon, made the process so much more efficient and easy to understand for any of us who picked up the game back in 2011. Plus, you didn't have to rely on battle packs to potentially find the attachment you really wanted, meaning no stress trying to get hold of the Cobra Red Dot. The DLC weapons also incentivized you to play the new maps and promoted using their own unique mechanics too, which was definitely an intentional choice by DICE, and clearly a positive one as they continue this concept into future Battlefield games as well. As Klebe on Reddit pointed out though, it really was the simplicity of this system which shone through most of all. No one felt overwhelmed being inundated with countless weapon and attachment combinations to choose from, with many of these affecting the gun in similar ways to a greater or lesser extent, and really it just allowed anyone to play however they felt, really easily. The main feature of Battlefield has been Teamplay, at least until recent games some would argue, but could this have really been embodied more than Battlefield 3? I remember loading up around on my Xbox 360, looking at my team around me, with unique character models signifying their class specifically, and being able to base my own decisions around what my squad and broader team required in any situation we found ourselves in. Not only that, in terms of having success on Battlefield 3, your team really did need to be comprised of every type of player. You always needed a solid infantry core to take objectives, whether that be on conquest or rush. For the infantry to be successful, vehicle support was a necessity too, whether in the air or on the ground, and in order for these vehicles to continue unscathed, you would need dedicated engineers who not only helped to cover and repair your own vehicles, but actively took out the opposition's. This is nothing against later Battlefield games, but I feel like we've slowly moved away from the squad and team-based approach to much more of a lone wolf, solitary experience, where the emphasis has changed from squads working together to more of that of individuals carrying their squads to victory. Of course, Battlefield 3's graphics by modern standards might not be quite what they once were. However, that classic blue hue will never be forgotten by those of us who played the game for any length of time, as well as the insane lens flare and glare that was added to the game. Obviously, which at the time was painful, but now I sort of look back on fondly. Like when you say to your buddies, hey, remember that time we almost went blind by playing around a Conquest and Operation Firestorm? This extended further into the Frostbite engine with a level of destruction which was unfathomable at the time, We'd been treated to some unique destruction with Bad Company 2, but BF3 totally blew it out of the water in terms of not only the destruction itself, but the fidelity of which it occurred. Again, you can think of BF4's Levolution as a technological marvel, but behind all that, BF3 made destruction commonplace for us. So much so that DICE had to go for the big set-piece showcases to dazzle us because we were so used to, and expected, the level of destruction that we saw in Battlefield 3. The graphical fidelity plus destruction brought the immersiveness of the game all the way up to a 10 for me. You really felt like you were in a war zone, whether that be the sometimes overbearing suppression, the explosions destroying everything all around you. The last element I want to mention links into the immersion of Battlefield 3 as well, the sound design. I don't think any Battlefield game has really come close to emulating the sounds of the Battlefield quite like BF3, especially from a modern perspective. I know so many argue that Battlefield 1 did a great job in terms of managing to build the atmosphere of World War I through its sound, and I definitely can't argue with that. But also, who can argue with the sound of sniper bullets whistling over your head as grenades pop your eardrums in-game? Not only that, the voice lines and in-game comments from other players felt grounded in the battle you were fighting, and again made you feel like you were part of that in every sense. And it's not really captured me the same way ever. I'll always look back on Battlefield 3 fondly, and I hope many of you do as well. To me, it's the archetype of what Battlefield is, and I know it's what the devs want to achieve again. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts on Battlefield 3 are. Is it the pinnacle of the Battlefield franchise, or do you think there's a better one out there? As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again for your time. I'm sure I'll catch you in the next one.